Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to try something a little bit different.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We are going to explore the hidden side of everyday life.
Okay.
But our tool for this exploration...
What's that?
Economics.
Interesting.
We're going to be using Freakonomics by Stephen D. Levitt and Stephen J. Dubner.
Oh, a fantastic book.
Yeah, have you read it?
Oh, yeah. This is a classic.
Yeah, so this book is all about uncovering those surprising connections between things that seem totally unrelated, like...
You know, school teachers and sumo wrestlers.
What?
Or the Ku Klux Klan and real estate agents.
Okay, now I am intrigued, but how can economics explain those bizarre pairings?
Well, it's all about incentives.
Hmm.
You know, those hidden forces that shape our decisions.
Yeah.
Often in ways we don't even realize. And Freakonomics uses data to reveal those incentives,
Okay.
even places we might not expect.
So you're telling me there's an economic explanation for why people cheat? Because that's the first thing that really jumped out at me from the book.
Absolutely. You might think cheating is about individual morality.
Right.
But Levitt argues that it's often about the systems we create. He dives into some fascinating examples, starting with Chicago school teachers.
Wait, school teachers? What kind of system encourages them to cheat?
It all comes down to high-stakes testing. Levitt noticed these suspicious patterns in standardized test scores.
Okay.
Identical blocks of correct answers on the hardest questions, for example.
So he's saying that teachers were changing the answers. Did they get caught?
Well, he actually convinced the Chicago School Board to retest certain classrooms.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
When the students couldn't rely on their teacher's help, their scores plummeted.
Wow, that's some serious detective work.
Yeah.
But what about the sumo wrestlers? They're not exactly taking standardized tests.
No, but they are competing for ranking, and there's a lot at stake. And Levitt found a similar pattern of cheating, but with a fascinating twist. Sometimes wrestlers would intentionally lose matches to help a friend maintain his ranking.
So it's like a system of mutual back-scratching.
Yeah, exactly.
But how could he prove that was happening?
Well, he looked at the data.
Okay.
Wrestlers with a 7-7 win-loss record, you know, those who needed a win to stay in the top division, were suspiciously likely to win their final match against opponents with an 8-6 record.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, is all cheating created equal?
Yeah, that's one of the questions Freakonomics forces us to grapple with. Is a student cheating on a test the same as a sumo wrestler throwing a match to help a friend?
Yeah.
Or how about stealing a bagel from the office break room?
Hold on, stealing bagels?
Yeah, Levitt actually ran an experiment where he delivered bagels to offices and tracked how much money he collected versus how many bagels were taken.
Interesting.
He called it the Bagel Man experiment.
Okay, that's pretty clever. What did he find? Did people steal the bagels?
Well, it turns out context plays a huge role.
Oh.
People were more likely to cheat when they felt anonymous, like in a large office with an impersonal staff.
Okay.
He even found that people were more honest on sunny days than cloudy days.
So even the weather can influence our honesty.
It's true.
I guess we're all susceptible to temptation depending on the situation.
Exactly. And Freakonomics argues that understanding those situations,
yeah.
you know, those systems that create incentives,
Yeah.
is key to understanding why people behave the way they do.
This is making me rethink everything now. I'm wondering how often I encounter these hidden incentives in my own life.
Well, let's talk about another one. Information asymmetry.
Okay.
Imagine playing a game where your opponent knows all your cards.
Okay.
That's information asymmetry, and it happens all the time in the real world.
Yeah, I see how that could create an unfair advantage, but what does that have to do with the Ku Klux Klan and real estate agents?
Think about it.
Okay.
The Klan's power came from secrecy.
Uh-huh.
Their rituals, their language, it is all designed to intimidate and create a sense of mystery.
Right, but how did they lose that power? I remember reading something about an activist who infiltrated the Klan.
Stetson Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
He understood that information is power, and by exposing the Klan's secrets, he helped diminish their influence. He literally took away their advantage.
So you're saying real estate agents use information asymmetry in the same way?
Think about it.
Okay.
They have access to information that buyers and sellers don't. Like what price a homeowner might actually accept.
It's like they have a secret weapon.
Exactly. Levitt tells this great story about his friend who was trying to buy a house. And he asked the seller's agent for the lowest price the homeowner might accept.
I bet the agent wouldn't tell him.
You're right, she scolded him.
Yeah.
Saying it was unethical to even ask.
Wow.
But then as they were wrapping up the conversation, she went ahead and told him anyway.
No way, talk about a power move.
It's a perfect example of how experts can exploit information asymmetry.
Yeah.
And it's not just real estate agents.
Yeah.
Think about doctors, car mechanics, even dating websites.
Hmm.
We rely on their expertise, but it also creates a power imbalance.
So what's the takeaway here? Should we be suspicious of everyone who claims to be an expert?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But Freakonomics encourages us to ask questions, do our research, and not just blindly accept what we're told.
Right.
The more information we have, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
But only if it's shared, right?
Exactly. And when information is more freely available, everyone benefits. Take the example of term life insurance.
Okay.
In the late 1990s, prices plummeted.
Oh, wow.
Not because people were suddenly living longer, but because the internet made it easier to compare prices from different companies.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It shows how transparency can level the playing field.
Absolutely.
Now I'm starting to see how economics is at play in so many areas of life.
And we're just getting started.
Oh.
Freakonomics takes this lens and applies it to some even more unexpected topics.
Like the economics of the crack cocaine market?
Okay, now that's a topic I never thought I'd discuss through an economic lens. Tell me more.
All right, let's get into it.
So how does economics explain something as complex and, let's be honest, as dangerous as the crack cocaine market?
Well, believe it or not, Levitt compares the rise of crack cocaine to something seemingly innocuous, nylon stockings.
Nylons? Really? That seems like a stretch.
Hear me out. When nylons were first introduced, they were a luxury good, scarce and in high demand. Sound familiar?
Okay.
Crack cocaine followed a similar trajectory in the 1980s.
I see where you're going with this high demand, limited supply, big profits for those who control the market. But wasn't the crack market run by gangs? How does that fit into the picture?
Levitt actually draws some interesting parallels between street gangs and legitimate businesses. He highlights the work of Sudhir Venkatesh, a sociologist who embedded himself with the Chicago gang and gained access to their financial records.
Wait, he got a gang to show him their books? That's incredible. What did he find? Venkatesh found that the gang, the Black Gangster Disciple Nation, was surprisingly organized with a hierarchy, not unlike a corporation.
Okay.
A board of directors, regional managers, even street-level salespeople, all working within a complex system.
So the gang was essentially running a business, just an illegal one. But if it was so profitable, why did the violence escalate?
Think back to those nylons. What happened when more companies started producing them?
The price dropped, supply and demand, right?
Exactly the same thing happened with crack as more people got into the business. The market became saturated.
Okay.
Profits dwindled, leading to increased competition and violence as gangs fought for control of a shrinking market.
It's like any competitive field, really. Only a small percentage make it to the top.
That's a great point. Levitt compares crack dealers to aspiring actors or athletes.
Oh, wow.
Tons of people vying for a limited number of spots at the top, with most barely scraping by.
It's a stark reminder that economics is at play even in the darkest corners of society, and it makes me wonder, did the war on drugs actually make things worse?
That's a question Levitt grapples with in the book. He argues that by making drugs illegal, we create a black market where violence thrives.
Right.
It's like prohibition all over again.
So we're seeing the unintended consequences of trying to control a market through prohibition? It's a powerful insight, and it makes me wonder, what other societal problems could we view through an economic lens?
Well, Levitt tackles another big one, the crime drop of the 1990s.
You mean that dramatic decrease in crime rates across the U.S.? I remember hearing about that, but what does that have to do with economics?
Levitt uses data to challenge the conventional explanations for the crime drop.
Okay.
Like innovative policing strategies and a booming economy.
Yeah.
He argues that other factors were at play, some of them quite controversial.
Okay, I'm really curious now what kind of controversial factors we're talking about.
He points to the legalization of abortion in the 1970s as having a significant impact on crime rates 20 years later.
Wait, abortion. How could that possibly be connected to crime?
Levitt's argument is based on the idea that unwanted children are statistically more likely to grow up in difficult circumstances and turn to crime. By giving women more control over their reproductive choices, abortion led to fewer unwanted children and consequently a decrease in crime 2 decades later.
That's a pretty bold claim. Is there any evidence to support it?
Levitt compares crime rates in states that legalized abortion early on to those that didn't. And the trends are pretty compelling.
It's definitely a thought-provoking argument, and it highlights how complex these issues are with so many factors at play. But Freakonomics isn't just about crime and punishment, right? It also looks at the role of parenting in a child's success.
That's right. Levitt analyzes a massive data set collected by the U.S. Department of Education, which tracked the lives of thousands of children from kindergarten through high school.
Okay.
And he comes to some surprising conclusions.
Surprising in what way? What did he find?
He discovered that many of the things we think make a difference, like sending kids to Head Start, having lots of books in the home, or whether a parent stays home, don't have a statistically significant impact on a child's school performance.
Hold on, are you saying those things don't matter at all? I mean, I always thought reading to my kids was important.
It's not that those things are bad, but according to the data, they don't move the needle as much as other factors, like the parent's education level and socioeconomic status, things that are largely out of a parent's control.
That's kind of disheartening if those things don't matter as much as we thought. What's the point of all the effort?
Well, Levitt isn't saying parents are irrelevant. He's suggesting that maybe we're focusing on the wrong things.
So instead of stressing over flashcards and museum visits, maybe we should focus on creating a loving and stable environment for our kids.
Exactly. And remember, these are just correlations based on data. They don't tell the whole story. There's still a lot we don't know about the complex interplay of nature and nurture.
It's definitely food for thought, and it makes me question all those deeply ingrained beliefs about what makes a good parent. But Freakonomics goes even deeper, right? It even explores how a child's name can impact their life.
That's right. Levitt analyzed millions of birth records from California looking for patterns in how parents name their children. And what he found is fascinating. For example, Black and white parents tend to choose very different names for their children.
Okay, that's not exactly groundbreaking, but what's the economic angle here?
Those names can send signals about a family's socioeconomic status and education level. Levitt found that names popular among highly educated parents tend to filter down to lower socioeconomic groups over time.
It's like a trickle-down effect for baby names, but how does that impact a person's life?
Well, studies have shown that job applicants with Black-sounding names are less likely to get called back for an interview, even when their resumes are identical to those of applicants with white-sounding names. Essentially, a name can carry an economic penalty.
That's incredibly unfair. It seems like we're judging people before we even meet them based on something as arbitrary as a name, but is it the name itself that matters, or is it the assumptions we make based on that name?
It's a complex question. Do people with certain names succeed because of their name? Or were they given those names because their families were already on a path to success? It's hard to say for sure.
It's a chicken and egg situation, but it's clear that names, even something as seemingly personal as a name, can reflect and even reinforce societal inequalities.
And that the choices we make, even those that seem small and insignificant, can have ripple effects we might never anticipate.
So after exploring all these diverse topics, what's the overall takeaway from Freakonomics?
Yeah, it feels like we've uncovered all these unexpected connections in this book. How is this all connected?
Well, that's the beauty of Freakonomics, right? It encourages us to question everything, to look beyond the obvious and seek out those hidden incentives driving behavior.
Yeah, and to use data to understand the world in a new way.
It's like taking all those assumptions we have and turning them upside down.
Yeah, and the book challenges those deeply held beliefs that often turn out to be based on conventional wisdom rather than actual evidence.
Yeah, we saw how cheating isn't just about bad apples, but about the systems that incentivize dishonesty.
Right.
And we saw how information asymmetry can give some people a huge advantage over others.
Absolutely. And don't forget the power of incentives. We saw how basic economic principles can explain complex phenomena.
Right.
Like the rise and fall of the crack cocaine market.
It's like we've been peeling back the layers of everyday life to reveal the economic forces at work beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize just how much those forces shape our decisions, often without us even realizing it.
It's true. That's one of the most important takeaways from Freakonomics. It's about understanding the world as it is not as we wish it to be.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the most unexpected explanations turn out to be the most insightful.
Yeah, I'm also struck by the importance of critical thinking.
Oh, for sure.
Freakonomics reminds us that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Right.
Just because two things are related doesn't mean one caused the other.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with information from all sides.
Right.
We need to be savvy consumers of information. question everything, and to think for ourselves.
It's easy to get caught up in those simple narratives, those easy explanations, but Freakonomics gives us the tools to dig deeper.
Yeah.
To uncover those hidden connections, to ask those questions that no one else is asking.
And it leaves us with that final thought-provoking line from the book. If morality represents how we would like the world to work, then economics shows how it actually does work.
It's a powerful reminder that the world is complex, often messy, and doesn't always conform to our ideals. But by understanding those economic forces at play, we can start to make better decisions, both for ourselves and for society as a whole.
If you're looking for a book that will challenge your assumptions, make you think differently, and leave you with more questions than answers, then Freakonomics is definitely worth a read.
It's a deep dive into the hidden side of everything, and I guarantee it will change the way you see the world.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Freakonomics. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing. Till next time, keep questioning everything.